Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Darrow here with another Options in Play video update. Uh, so, really, I'm at a loss for words, but I'll tell you what, these last 3 days really just talk about misdirection, manic moves, misdirection, massive swings. You know, it's as weak as we looked Monday is as strong as we looked yesterday is as weak as we look again today, and it's just huge up days, huge down days, big volume. Things are flying around, and it makes for some wild trading, right? And what is always important, right? In any market, it doesn't matter if it's just an extremely volatile market like we're in, is having like some sort of trade management plan in place, right? You know, you have like principles that you are already know uh, how you want to handle trades when they start working in your favor, or how you want to handle trades when they move against you, right? So sometimes that's target profit targets. Or net debit stop ranges, right? You know, we've talked about this in the past. I mean, we've gone over rolling strategy a bunch, multiple videos going over that. Um, I like to do it because obviously it's super important, and I feel like a lot of you guys that at least I've talked to about this, you all kind of have something in place. Maybe it's something that's similar to mine. Maybe it's something that you've kind of developed on your own. It's great. It's important to have that. Um, what I want to talk about today is just maybe a little bit of a variation on that. All right, uh, it's more about managing a trade prior to a catalyst. Okay, so this is uh, this is something a little bit different, just in the sense that normally when you get into a trade, say if it's a swing trade, you might have like profit targets above, or maybe it's like a point on the chart, right? Maybe you're saying I want a 10% extension, or if you get into a catalyst trade, you're saying okay, I'm looking for maybe 100% return, right? You want like a 100% move over the net debit you paid, or maybe it's like a certain price on the chart again, right? Pre-catalyst is completely different in my book. I mean, I will approach this from a different perspective. Oftentimes, like the goal for me pre-catalyst. So if I get into like a trade specifically for a catalyst and it has a pretty sharp move prior to that catalyst, my main goal is just to get risk down ahead of the event. Okay, and it won't necessarily be like the same profit or technical targets that I would have after the catalyst, right? So for instance, just to go over what I mean, so like Kohl's, right? So coming into the week, I knew it was going to be a retail heavy week. You had Macy's, you have Walmart, you have JCPenney, you possibly have Dillard's. So it was just going to be a big week. I mean, like we've seen these in the past when the retailers start reporting. A lot of them move at the same time. So with a pretty busy lineup, what I like to do is look for the names that aren't reporting this week. So in this case, it was Kohl's and Target. I mean, that's another one. Costco, maybe a third if you wanted to look at, because those options tend to not have that same catalyst premium, right? So like the implied volatility will be lower because they're not reported this week, right? So Kohl's, the trade was a strangle, a lower debit strangle, and it was basically looking for a sharp move in either direction based off of the multiple retailers reporting this week, right? And it was open Monday, right? And what happened was Tuesday, you had yesterday you had a really big pop, right? So when they said they were going to walk back the tariffs through December, that obviously favors the retail sector quite a bit. And what you saw was a bunch of retail names, not just Kohl's, rallied very, very sharply. And what happened was Kohl's ripped up above 52, um, and it put the bull side of the strangle pretty solidly into the money, and it really skewed that trade. And interestingly, like it was before Macy's even reported, so like the trade was put on looking for a big move in response to the multiple retail reports this week, but then it had a huge move prior to the retail reports even starting to come out, right? So, um, like the goal, normally, like when you get into like a position, it's like, okay, I want a 100% profit target, or maybe you say I wanted a test of the 55 area on calls. But because it had such a big move prior to the actual catalyst, it's like you kind of walk back the aggressiveness of those targets, right? You're saying like, okay, it's already had a big move. I just want to cut risk prior to the event. So it's managing risk before that event comes out. So even though it may not have hit like the 100% or like the 55 target, I still want to like chop risk back if possible. So the bull side was rolled. And then what do you know? Macy's came out, had a miserable quarter, and the thing got smashed to the downside, right? So it was one of those rare situations where you're able to roll risk, cut back risk on the bull side, and then a day later you're able to close out the bear portion in the green too. So it was one of those unusual situations. I mean, great situations, but unusual in the sense that like really kind of like both sides of the trade ended up working to a certain extent, right? I mean, it rallied for the bull and then it dropped for the bear. So very unusual. It doesn't happen too often, but it's also a great example of why managing risk prior to the catalyst or prior to the event can actually be super important too. All right. So yeah, if you guys have any questions about this or maybe about the rolling strategy, the trade management strategy, please don't hesitate to reach out. You know how to get in touch with me. Um, it's going to be an interesting few days. I mean, after today's session, still some bigger earnings reports coming up, especially tonight and tomorrow. So should have plenty of headline news in addition to the overall market news and just really setting up for a volatile few days. So buckle up, all right? So have a wonderful night, and I'll talk to you all tomorrow.